step through the looking glass into an enchanting adventure courtesy of Lufthansa German Airlines. Yes, it's a big bag, but I've had to compensate for extreme sub-zero temperatures in St. Petersburg and Moscow. So it's full of winter woolies. And of course, those two mates that I smuggled into the bag who are desperate to see Russia. Shut up or you're going to be discovered. Could I have a seat for three, please? I mean, one passenger.
Sure, sir. I'm sure it'll be no problem.
A passenger who was about to wing his way to the 300-year-old captivating former capital of the vast Russian Empire. Most Russians would agree that there's no better way to enter the heart of this classic, romantic and eternally elegant country than through the wrought iron gates, turrets and domes of splendid St. Petersburg. Добро пожаловать в Россию, and more especially welcome to its magnificent cultural capital, St. Petersburg, on a warm winter's day, at least 20 degrees above average. Oh, the Russian winters. To my right, a majestic equestrian statue of Peter the Great, a gift from Catherine with a simple inscription, to Peter I from Catherine II. This is Michael III. A city built on water, St. Petersburg offers a veritable flood of attractions, from bold equestrian statuary to Baroque monasteries and neoclassical palaces, to a strong resurgence of church weddings. There's been a robust religious revival in post-communist Russia as churches of all denominations have been restored to their original purpose. Having been largely used as storehouses in the Soviet era, church weddings are now definitely back in vogue, with rather touching and very public displays of marital affection. Given the city's short and stormy history, peace is a big attraction in a city that has undergone numerous name changes, a 900-day siege, and is known as the cradle of the Russian Revolution. That in the 20th century alone. St. Petersburg has much in common with the number 3. It was established right here 300 years ago. In that time, it hasn't flooded for only 3 years. It underwent 3 name changes, 3 revolutions, and underwent an almost 3-year siege under Napoleon. There was one more 3 analogy, but I can't remember what it is. You know what they say, there are 3 kinds of people in this world, those that can count and those that can't. The extraordinary Baroque cathedral within the Peter and Paul Fortress marks the founding of the city, but masks a fairly gruesome history of forced labor, torture and imprisonment. Unsurprisingly, waterbound St. Petersburg is built around a network of sturdy bridges and waterways, providing further chance to adorn the city with decorative sculptures and elaborate wrought iron work. There's no better example than the lavish Imperial Palace, originally designed for Tsarina Elizabeth and rewrought in its present incarnation by Catherine the Great. Peter the Great's wife, Catherine, succeeded him on the throne, becoming the first woman to rule Russia. She initiated the petticoat period, in which women were in charge for the rest of the 18th century, and did much to set the tone for the celebrated architecture of St. Petersburg, a prime example being Catherine's palace, flaunting feminine flamboyance. Despite her flamboyance, Catherine commissioned a dour Scotsman, Charles Cameron, to redesign the brash Baroque interiors according to her more restrained neoclassical taste. Not that you'd notice, given the almost unbelievable level of Russian Baroque opulence, the profusion of pilasters and columns outside, and the gilded carvings, frescoes and illuminated mirrors within. It's all elegantly enhanced by radiant light streaming into this feast for the eyes. Catherine's palace was built in just 4 years. It was ransacked and devastated in 3 after the Second World War, and its restoration has taken 40 years and counting. The reason being is that the Tsars had a lot more money and resources available to them back then. They also had certain building techniques that remain a mystery today, despite having the original plans. As light pours into the glittering hallways of Italian architect Bartolomeo Rastrelli, Cameron's contained neoclassicism is all but overshadowed. Gutted by the Nazis and only recently completely restored, this royal chamber is considered by some to be the 8th wonder of the world, largely because of its precious metal and intricate carving. The Amber Room that we're standing in right now is regarded as one of the greatest treasures in the world. Why is that?
Мы находимся в совершенно удивительном интерьере.
The amber room is really unique room. Amber panels were presented by the Prussian King Friedrich Wilhelm I to Peter the Great. And in Russia, the Italian architect Rastrelli used the amber panels and designed this room. You can see it.
From the imperial majesty of Catherine's palace to the lavish museums and art galleries, the streets of St. Petersburg testify to an historic city built with an almost boundless source of wealth and lavish patronage of the arts, literature and culture.
Still to come on Top Billing, Russia reveals her ballet roots and snowy...
Whether it's the Bolshoi in Moscow or the Marensky in St. Petersburg, Russian ballet is admired throughout the world. And it traces its origins back to 1738, to a dance school that was established right here in St. Petersburg to train children of palace employees to entertain the Tsars. The legacy of Russian ballet lives in the thrilling performances of Anna Pavlova, Nijinsky and Nureyev. Their skill and grace is legendary and an ongoing inspiration for these little maidens who are well on their way to dancing Swan Lake at the Mariinsky Theatre one day. Vladislav, you clearly are a gifted teacher and we're really impressed with your students. But why is it that Russian ballet dancers are so renowned? Vladislav Kurumshin, director of the Jakobson Ballet School, himself a former principal dancer with the Mariinsky Ballet Company, suggested that Russian ballet is so good and so famous because they have a rich heritage that has passed through the generations. The students are also extremely diligent and they achieve their success through very hard work. At this academy, intense training starts at 6, as they believe conditioning the body at an early age prevents injuries later on. What is it going to take to become a prima ballerina? The two most important elements Marina explained were good fortune and total dedication. Could you teach me to do a pirouette?
Yeah. Skok.
Yeah. Let's try this. Plie and... Oh, no, wrong foot. Okay, wrong foot. Good, yeah. Unlike some of us, these children are born for the ballet and are set for the Bolshoi. Is there a difference between ballet in Moscow and St. Petersburg, the Bolshoi and the Mariinsky? Vladislav explained that the only difference between the Bolshoi in the capital and the Mariinsky is that ballet tuition in St. Petersburg tends to be more conservative and restrained, whilst in Moscow instruction is more contemporary and fluid. As for quality, the high standard that was set from Soviet times continues to this day unchanged. Whether it's Petersburg, just north of Pretoria, or St. Petersburg, quite a bit further north, boys will be boys. And 4x4ing seems a popular universal pastime. Only here, it's kind of different. The quality of the roads and the extremely waterlogged and icy conditions make off-roading something quite out of the ordinary. It's tradition in St. Petersburg to leave the city every weekend and head for the country, even in winter. Especially in winter. The city was built on a marshy, fetid bogland at the mouth of the mighty Neva River, flowing into the Gulf of Finland and the Baltic Sea. It's spread over 40 islands, sprawling almost all the way out to the imperial country palaces. Stas, how popular is off-road driving in Russia?
First of all, off-road driving for the majority of Russians is the only way to get to their homes. But unfortunately, a lot of them have no 4x4 cars. So off-road is just a part of Russian life.
Standard kit for a 4x4 excursion includes a high-lift jack, a winch, GPS, CB radio, pump and, wait for it, snorkels. Severe off-road driving conditions involve crossing rivers up to 1 meter in depth. So Stas, why do you do this? I mean, I look to the left and there's water. I look to the right and there's what looks like ice, but it's coming in waves. It's cold. Is this an adventure?
I think it's more fun than adventure. Also, it is a very beautiful view from there because it looks like you are on the Northern Pole. Everywhere water, ice, and no land.
Beautiful. So that's the expedition to get to the North Pole then?
Yes.
By 4x4, over water, mud and ice. I like it. Other accessories when you're good and stuck include tents and sleeping bags or a rubber duck. The Neva flows into Lake Ladoga, which is the principal source of water for the city and one of the biggest freshwater lakes in the world. At the onset of winter, as the ice thickens and the snow deepens, most self-respecting St. Petersburgers head outdoors for skiing, skating and sledging, or how about maybe driving round Lake Ladoga in a 4x4. Neva on a Sunday, you might say. Well, we've got a full 10 meters and stuck already. Had to be pulled out of the mud, the mire and the ice. So I don't have a lot of hope for getting to the North Pole, but who knows? Questions that kept recurring out of the soggy marshlands. Was I in over my head? Does the airbag float? Can I breathe underwater? Where's that snorkel? None of these appear to concern our Russian guides, who all seem to take a regular dunking at minus 10 degrees as a matter of course. And I'm thinking, snow fun this. Maybe I'll try fishing. That wasn't such a bad idea after all, since the 219-kilometer-long lake contains some 60 species of different fish, though it's mainly inhabited by salmon. Catching a fish through a hole in the ice is a popular Russian pastime, but the chances of that happening here are as likely as catching a fish through a hole in the ice. So I'm going to hang up my axe and enjoy what's left of the sunset over Lake Ladoga. And that's the Russian way, laid back, chilled, with no axe to grind. Join us next week as Titch Tours take us on to
What better backdrop than a Russian winter wonderland to show off this season's warmest woolies, offset by the frozen rivers and timeless style of a sub-zero St. Petersburg.
When Sari magazine selected stunning St. Petersburg to shoot some of South Africa's coolest winter fashions, they really went out of their way to capture the clothes in a magical setting with soft and gentle light.
When we shoot winter here in South Africa, we either shoot it in a studio or in a forest where it's green and everything, and it's always been a dream to shoot in snow. And it was a wonderful idea, and everyone was very excited about it.
They chose our very own Michael Moll as the model. He's used to chilling out, but motionless at sub-zero temperatures was a tough challenge. He was not just cool, he was absolutely freezing.
I've just done layers of colors, and for Michael I've actually put him in a combination of brights, which works because it's cold, it's snowing, as you can see. Yeah, so that's what I've done.
Really?
Yes.
Do you have anything warmer for me?
Many a true word is spoken in jest. Apart from the biting cold, the setting was like a fairy tale. Ice palaces, white ponies, and Dr. Zhivago all in one. Native St. Petersburg model Katya Alventseva has traveled the world, but she's still as at home here as she is in her gorgeous winter garments.
For Katya, I chose a long grey coat. I think it fits in perfectly with trees with snow on them. It's quite hard, and the look is also quite severe, with a beret just to soften it a little bit. And then I just added red gloves for a touch of humor.
One thing is for certain, there was no difficulty here getting the models to freeze for the camera.
Michael, I put in quite a bright pink shirt, also once again just to add a little bit of color to it, and in a corduroy jacket to soften it a little bit.
The next frozen fantasy setting which Michael chose to jog to was the inner city. Photographer Johan Wilkie strove to capture the cool contrast between the timeless architecture and the contemporary capital.
I was just trying to get some people in the background moving, blurred, cars blurring, get that feel of lots of people on the sidewalk and then the cathedral in the background.
For Michael, it was a novel experience, seeing himself frozen in time the instant the shot was taken, especially in the warm heart of one of Europe's most beautiful cities.
This is great. I think being in Russia on a still shot's fantastic. Snow, cold, friendly Russians, believe it or not. Amazing, very accommodating nation. Very impressed.
Back in the SARI office, the tough task of selecting and rejecting lay ahead, made easier apparently by Michael's magic modelling ability.
Michael is just wonderful in front of a camera. When you look at the trannies, he's just a fantastic male model. He's so natural, there's no posing, he's just Michael.
You've shared the challenge, creating this icy fashion story, step by Russian step. Now, dip into your May issue of SARI magazine. From Russia with love.